When I was a kid, Earthbound became my favorite video game, and it changed the way I perceive games forever. Years later, a game came into my life that changed the way I play them. That game was Castlevania: Symphony of the Night. I used to play games like any other normal person, but after playing Symphony of the Night, I was never the same again. When I beat Earthbound as a kid, I didn't grind in games. I was a normal person that didn't mind having my character be at level 5 when I reached the first boss. After playing Symphony of the Night and going back to play Earthbound years later, my character would be at level 20 when I faced that first boss, because by then I'd already been introduced to the joys of grinding. If you haven't heard someone use the term grinding before, it's basically killing enemies over and over to level up in an RPG or any sort of game where you can level up your character. Some people say it's lazy game design when you're forced to grind for hours in games, but I genuinely enjoy it. I find it very therapeutic. I define grinding as blissful monotony interrupted by magical moments. Imagine Symphony of the Night is a friend that invites you to go fishing with them out of the blue, and you've never given fishing any real thought before, but once you're out there on that peaceful lake, a beer in one hand and a fishing rod in the other, you want to kick yourself for not having done this sooner. A half hour goes by in what feels like nothing, and then suddenly your friend catches a huge 10-pound largemouth bass, and your blissful monotony is interrupted by this magical moment. That's what grinding feels like to me. Here's an example. Say that in Symphony of the Night there's a hallway where there's a bat I have to jump up and kill with one slash, and then after that there's a tougher enemy that takes 3 slashes to kill. So I jump up and kill the bat, walk over to the tougher enemy, and 1, 2, 3 slashes and he's dead. I walk out of the hallway to make the enemies respawn, and then I head back in. I slash the tough enemy 1, 2, 3, and then I jump up and kill the bat, and I start to get into this zen-like state. Everything else sort of melts away, and all I'm focusing on is the entrancing rhythm of jump slash walk slash slash slash, jump slash walk slash slash slash. And I do this for a long time, leveling up my character in the process. But leveling up is merely a pleasant side effect to what I'm doing. What I want to do is keep up my steady rhythm. I want to stay in that zen groove. And then after half an hour of blissful monotony, something magical happens. I go into the hallway and it's jump slash walk slash slash, and before I can get my third slash out, the enemy's already dead. I've leveled up so much that I've broken the rhythm of this area that I'd gotten used to doing over and over. My zen-like trance has been interrupted and I'm back in the real world. I've caught the largemouth bass, and that's my cue to move on to a different part of the lake and see if any fish are biting over there. An added bonus to this is that monotonous activities that don't require that much brain power allow my mind to wander off as I'm playing, and after a good grinding session, I'm bursting at the seams with ideas. That's why people say they have their best ideas when they're in the shower, or when they're running on the treadmill at the gym. I have my best ideas when I'm grinding, when I'm in those tunnel vision moments of jump slash walk slash slash slash. Symphony of the Night was my gateway drug into the world of grinding, and after that I developed another gaming quirk, being a completionist. I'd be playing a game and I'm in a mysterious cave where there's 2 paths I can take. So I go down one path and it eventually opens up and there's a monkey kid waiting for me in a big open room. It's the same monkey kid that bumped into me near the entrance of the cave, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, my bad," but it turned out he'd bumped into me on purpose to steal my royal gem and run off with it, and now here he is waiting for me. A normal person would think, I'm gonna get my royal gem back, fuck this monkey kid. But for me, knowing that I'm on the right track triggers my completionist itch. So I immediately backtrack and I go down the other path to make sure I'm not leaving any loot or items behind. Because as a completionist, my mind's already playing out a nightmare scenario in my head that if I step anywhere near where the monkey kid is, it would start a cutscene where my character runs after him and we both run out of the cave. And for some reason there's an explosion and it causes a cave-in, and then the game auto-saves and I can never go back inside to see what was down the other path. And then for the rest of the game I'd be talking with NPCs and they'd be saying stuff like, "It's a good thing you checked that other path in the cave, the best weapon in the game was there." And then, ... "Oh, you didn't check?" And I'd feel like shit for the rest of my playthrough. That's why whenever I play RPGs, I'm always trying to jimmy open all the locks on treasure chests and trying real hard to get into every house, exploring every tucked away corner of the game and checking for any secrets or gold. It's the reason I played Skyrim for 100+ hours and the only dragon I killed was the one you're forced to in the beginning of the game to advance. As soon as I killed it, I could feel the game trying to funnel me into the direction it wanted me to go in. So I said goodbye to everyone and I made a beeline straight into the wilderness. And I spent the rest of my time in Skyrim trying to complete every single side quest before even bothering with the main story. And for a while, I thought I had all my weird gaming quirks in check and under control, until I got involved with the only game that's ever caused me any sort of real physical harm. A game I consider to be the cigarettes of the video game world. Tetris. As a kid, I owned Tetris for the original Game Boy, and even though I understood how to play it, it was always more of a last resort sort of game I'd play, whenever my brothers had already taken Hook and Faceball 2000 for themselves. But throughout the years, I'd keep running into Tetris on and off. Like whenever I'd play emulated games, I'd see Tetris on my list of ROMs and I'd think, sure, why the hell not, and I'd play it for a bit. Or one of my friends would have Tetris on his phone at school and I'd play a couple games on there. So I kept dipping my toes into the Tetris waters for years, until one day all the stars aligned and I stumbled onto a site called TetrisFriends.com, and that's where my obsession with Tetris began. Tetris Friends is pretty much Tetris, but you get to play against other people online, and they've got tons of different game modes. It's a real devious site though, because everything on there is set up so that the game can get its hooks in you at every turn. There's daily challenges, there's a ranking system that makes you want to beat all the other players in all the different game modes. The first time I saw the site, I started getting every kind of gaming itch possible. So many progress bars to fill, so many rankings to go up in. It was all extremely tempting. And much like when a person's at a party and he tries his first cigarette and thinks, what's the worst that can happen? I threw caution to the wind and dove head first into the murky Tetris waters. One big reason why cigarettes are so addictive isn't just because of their nicotine content, or because of the hundreds of chemicals that tobacco corporations add to them to make them even more addictive. It's because once you start smoking, the habit starts to creep into every aspect of your life. So you find yourself smoking while you're waiting for the bus to pick you up to go to work, or when you're standing outside of your college classroom and you're worried about a test you're about to take, or even when you're just sitting on the toilet. That's why quitting smoking is so hard, because not only are you constantly craving the nicotine when you stop, but you also start to notice that now you have all this leftover time throughout the day. Just hours upon hours that used to be filled up with you smoking, but now you don't have anything to fucking do anymore to pass the time. After my discovery of Tetris Friends, I'd log in for an hour every couple of days to play against other people, or I'd take a break from doing schoolwork and I'd get a couple games in. And the more I played, the more I kept improving, and the site kept rewarding me and patting me on the back for all my hard work. Soon enough, I'd gone from playing Tetris casually to playing Tetris every day, spending hours and hours on Tetris Friends in a trance, completely in the zone, beating people and slowly going up in the ranks. After about a month, I finally got up to level 20 and I achieved Grand Master status. I'd gotten the highest rank in all the competitive game modes, and I felt like maybe now I might be able to move on from Tetris and get on with my life. Another reason why quitting smoking is so hard is that cigarettes go well with absolutely everything. Drinking a cup of coffee or hot tea and having cigarettes is awesome. Having a smoke after a good meal feels amazing. Drinking alcohol and smoking cigarettes is the perfect pairing. Cigarettes are like magic pixie dust that enhance everything you do, and that's why they suck so goddamn much. I stopped going to Tetris Friends for about a week after getting the highest ranks, but I still kept getting the urge to go back and play just a couple more games. My mind would always be trying to figure out some way to trick me to get me back to playing Tetris. One day I was listening to a podcast and my mind kept telling me, how about playing Tetris while you listen to your podcast? It might be fun, you never know. And on that day I didn't have the strength to say no, so again, I threw caution to the wind and I went to Tetris Friends. I loaded up a single player endless marathon game, and playing Tetris while listening to a podcast turned out to be an amazing revelation. Much like cigarettes, it turned out that Tetris goes well with everything too. I started playing, and if I thought the Zen groove I got into when I grinded in RPGs was good, it was nothing compared to this. I was getting the best of both worlds, because I'd played Tetris and that would make me slip into a relaxing trance, but then listening to the podcast at the same time would keep me aware of what was going on. So now I could float in between different levels of consciousness and engage or disengage my attention span at my own will. It was an incredible experience and I loved every second of it. Listening to podcasts and playing Tetris became part of my daily routine, and from then on, Tetris started creeping into every aspect of my life. For the next couple months, I'd go to sleep thinking about Tetris. I'd wake up thinking about Tetris. Whenever I felt like rewatching one of my favorite movies, I'd start watching it, and after the end of the first act, I'd start getting the Tetris itch. So I'd load up a game of Tetris on another window, resize it, and have both windows side by side. And I'd keep watching the movie while getting a couple games of Tetris in. I kept this up for a few months, and then my right hand started hurting a lot, because I'd use it to move the Tetris pieces around with the arrow keys on the the keyboard, and I'd only use my left hand to tap on the spacebar to make the pieces drop quicker. So I switched the controls to WASD to move the pieces around with my left hand and give my right hand a break. But after a month of playing with this new control scheme, now my left hand was starting to bother me. I kept switching over from one control scheme to the other until eventually both of my hands were killing me. I kept playing more and more Tetris despite the increasing pain on my wrist, even though I knew that's what was causing me so much discomfort. When you're an addict, you're always looking for some workaround to keep feeding your addiction. So alcoholics start drinking beer with a lower alcohol content. Smokers start smoking American spirits because they don't have as many additives and are more natural. Food addicts continue to overeat, but they replace their usual naughty treats with sugar-free and low-fat stuff. For my Tetris addiction, I bought a little hand rest to put under my hand when I played, but I was still hurting. I bought some creams to reduce the swelling, but I never felt like they helped at all. I wake up one morning and the pain in my right wrist is unbearable, so I decide to go get it checked out with a doctor. I'm in the doctor's office and he asks me, "So, what seems to be the problem?" And I tell him that there's this insidious website called Tetris Friends that satisfies all my gaming quirks in all the right spots, and I've been playing Tetris every single day for 6 months straight. I show him my right hand and he tells me, "Flex your wrist forwards like this." So I flex it and he says, "Ah, see, there it is right there." And I see that my wrist has a bulging lump coming out of it. The doctor tells me, "What you have here is something called a ganglion cyst. It's a type of repetitive motion disorder in the same vein as carpal tunnel or tendinitis." I ask him if there's any way to get rid of it, and he tells me they usually go away with time. But if I really want it taken care of right now, he can stick a needle in there and suck out all the liquid that's in the cyst. But he warns me that they tend to reappear in the same spot, even after they've been removed 2 or 3 times. He tells me that ganglion cysts are also called Bible bumps, because a common home remedy for removing them is to grab a thick book like a Bible, and using that to smash the cyst. I thank the doctor and I tell him that I guess I'll just wait for it to go away on its own. I get back home and I'm sitting in front of my computer with my fucked up ganglion cyst hand. I go onto Tetris Friends and I look at my profile with all my stupid little badges and all the titles I've earned that don't mean anything at the end of the day because my hand hurts like crazy now. I realize I've hit rock bottom and that this Tetris shit has gone on for way too long. So I start challenging other players to battle with me, and I'm hitting the spacebar as fast as I can, dropping my pieces on top of each other and making myself lose on purpose. I keep doing this over and over and I'm getting private messages from people saying stuff like, "Hey, is your keyboard glitching out?" Or people saying, "You just got owned, loser." But I don't care. I keep losing until my rank goes down. That Grandmaster title that I fought so hard to get for weeks has now been stripped from me and I feel fucking fantastic. My rank keeps falling down to 19, 18, 17. And with each rank I go down, I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm breaking free of my Tetris shackles and I'm ready to move on with my life. Finally, I get down to rank 1, the same rank I was before I dove headfirst into my Tetris addiction and started all this crap. I closed the Tetris Friends tab, and then Jenny and I went outside for a long, peaceful walk. When you're an addict, one of the key things is always keeping a constant vigilance over your compulsive urges. Nowadays, it's not like if I see someone playing Tetris, I have to go into another room and catch my breath or anything like that. I still play Tetris every once in a while, but just like alcoholics start drinking O'Douls, or smokers that switch to e-cigarettes, I mostly play crappy match 3 games on badly designed websites. The kind of sites that pummel me with ads after every game. I go to sites that annoy me so much that it completely kills my desire to scratch any itch I might have had. And I always stop and look at the list of all the other people playing these crappy games with me. And I wonder how many of them are here by choice, and how many of them are using this shitty website as their own personal Tetris Friends rehab session, just like me.